If you have a heart beating within your chest, you've no doubt heard of Hayao Miyazaki, who's so well known and legendary that most people don't even say his first name anymore. He's just Miyazaki. No, not that guy. This guy. Even if you've never heard of Miyazaki, you probably know Studio Ghibli. Even if you've never seen one of his films, you know his work by osmosis. Hell, even if you've never seen anime before, you've felt his influence in more than 2 generations of filmmaking and art. In fact, now that David Lynch has shuffled off his mortal coil and joined the unified field of consciousness, I declare that Miyazaki is now the single greatest living filmmaker. Except maybe Marty, but that doesn't count because we know that he'll become the first man in history to never die, right? He's the Walt Disney of Japan, except with the effortless charm and style of Spielberg or Jackson, coupled with the painstaking meticulousness of Kubrick or Fincher. Like Disney, he's the patron saint of animation for his respective country. Anime wouldn't be the same without him, even though he's often misquoted as hating the medium itself. But unlike Disney, he never had himself cryogenically frozen. And although if we embalmed him and displayed him in a glass jar to deify him like Lenin, I doubt that anybody would really object. We'd all be creeped out, sure, but it would definitely be earned. Or maybe just the statue would be fine. That makes more sense. Disregard the Lenin thing, that's weird.
I am the walrus.
That's it. Shut the f up, Donnie. D.I. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
But at the end of the day, that's not why you clicked on this video. We're here to talk about AI art. If you're as terminally online as I am, then you've no doubt seen the flurry of AI art that's spread all over Instagram lately. As OpenAI's new image generator, powered by ChatGPT 4.0, has made it possible to giblify things, replacing real-world events in Miyazaki's signature art style, which would basically rank it as the second worst thing OpenAI has ever done. Now, of course, echoes of Miyazaki's style can be found in nearly everything today, from Lord of the Rings to Guillermo del Toro to Bong Joon-ho, and not to mention pretty much every serious piece of Western animation out there, from Over the Garden Wall to Avatar: The Last Airbender. But this is not the fruit of Miyazaki's influence. This doesn't deserve to be called an homage or a pastiche. It's not some Tarantino, Watanabe, Kojima type shit.
Call me Snake.
My name is Pliskin.
It's pure simulacrum. Okay, big word out the gate, let's dumb it down. It's slop! Straight from the trough. See, we don't exactly have to imagine too hard what Miyazaki would think about this trend. He's never been exactly, ambiguous about his feelings on any given topic. The central irony to Miyazaki is that despite making films filled with joy and life, Miyazaki's one of those guys that was born to be an old man. He's the #1 doomer supreme. He's an elite hater. But of all the footage I've ever seen Miyazaki in, I've never seen him level out harsher criticism for anything than AI. In the documentary Never-Ending Man, a team of animators shows Miyazaki a clip of AI art that they want to incorporate. Miyazaki had this to say.
これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね、何も考えないでやってるでしょ。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。極めて何か生命に対する侮辱を感じます。地球最後の日が近いという。これは人間の方は自信がなくなってる。
Okay, first things first, I just want to get something out of the way here. I'm not a coder. The only language I ever actually learned was Java, all of which I've forgotten.
I'm more of a humanities guy.
I'm not an expert on AI or AGI or LLMs or any other acronyms for that matter. I'm an idiot. Worse than an idiot, actually. I'm a YouTuber. But I know a problem when I see one. And we've got an AI problem. Prior to about 2 years ago, I conceived of AI the way that most people did, as a byproduct of science fiction, which largely portrays it in a very negative light. However, what's so funny is that in all the science fiction and Japanese anime I had ever seen on the topic, there was hardly any representation of AI art as a concept, likely because, for however creative and prophetic writers such as Philip K. Dick and William Gibson were, who both feared and dreaded AI, they seemingly never could have conceived of an application for it as pointless and stupid as stealing intellectual property to make J.D. Vance look like a minion. Therefore, I never really saw AI art coming either, because my perception of AI and its possibilities, both positive and negative, were limited to the scope of the work I had consumed. Admittedly, I was a little film-brained on the topic. Thankfully for me, I know a lot of STEM bros who were able to explain it in greater detail. And all of them were very quick to remind me that AI is a tool. Yeah, it's a tool, alright. No, I do mean it. AI should be like your little helper buddy. It should make your life easier. If you're a truck driver, for instance, it should merge lanes for you in the most efficient, dispassionate way possible, without all your screaming and cursing. But if you're a truck driver, it shouldn't fuck you out of the job. Because if it fucks up, there you'll be, the last line of defense, essentially damage control. And while this might be unfulfilling if you've spent your life driving trucks, think of all the free time you'd have to sit in the cab and write that screenplay you've always dreamed about. Or if you don't have dreams, imagine how much time you'd have to sit there and play Candy Crush. Wouldn't that be sick? Well, yeah, of course it would. In the imaginary America that actually still cares about labor and doesn't fundamentally thrive on austerity and fucking people over. Because we're about to talk about film a lot, let me use a recent one as an example of the current trends in AI that received a lot of pushback. Last year, the Oscar-nominated film The Brutalist caught a lot of flack for using AI. People made a huge deal about this, and it kind of derailed the film's chances to win the big prize, even though, in my opinion, it deserved it just about as much as any other film not named Dune 2, which was never going to win anyway. Apparently, director Brady Corbett used AI to generate certain scenery to enhance the film, as well as enhance Adrian Brody's Hungarian accent.
Man, you know, respect all I respect, you know, me respect, me expect, me respect, me respect, you know? Yeah, really.
Now, here's where I draw my arbitrary distinction. Somehow, some way, I am somewhat okay with the AI-enhanced backgrounds, within reason. But I am totally not okay with the weird Hungarian AI accent. And yes, I know that makes no sense, but hear me out. The reality is that as a result of the AI backgrounds, Brady Corbett probably had to hire fewer CGI artists. And that sucks. That's less jobs being created.
You know, my brother once told me that nothing someone says before the word but really counts. But.
The movie looks like $1 million anyway, and by $1 million I mean roughly 50 to 100 million bucks. It looks masterful, and not because the film was filmed in VistaVision or whatever, but because the framing and production design is fucking excellent, and the movie cost $10 million. If you've never worked in film, that may seem like a lot, but nowadays that's as low budget as a mid-budget film can get, and it looks like a fucking Paul Thomas Anderson movie half the time. In fact, if you take labor out of the equation, that is a triumph for the little guy. That is a triumph of filmmaking.
But.
Again, this is just an excuse to cut costs and keep it cheap. Look, just like truck drivers, CGI artists should be able to use AI to make their jobs easier and to avoid unnecessary costs that could be spent towards other things and to reduce the grueling sweatshop man hours they're subjected to. Technically, no one is being exploited here in this instance.
But.
That still means that there are going to be less people with jobs in a business notoriously reliant on gig work and known for its instability.
But.
If this trend keeps up, we'll have nobody left in the film industry but Nepo babies, and the only stories being told will center around rich white people being naughty and scandalous, and tortured artistic geniuses who are also white being naughty and scandalous.
Oh wait, that's already happening.
Because you're soulless.
There's also the Hungarian AI accent thing.
We came here because it was our only option!
Adrian Brody won Best Actor for this performance.
Adrian Brody. But.
Should he have? Like abstractly, should he have won the award? Because to me, I think that's kind of disqualifying. In the same way that even though it looks great, the movie shouldn't also receive a Best Production Design Oscar, given that it's impossible to tell which sets are artificial and which are real sometimes. But that's the point, it's impossible to tell. Yet, the voice acting was distracting. It took me out of the movie. It made me question what was real and what was fake in a way that the sets didn't, because the use of CGI over the years has already primed me to the concept of artificial backgrounds, while the relatively new concept of a completely artificially enhanced acting performance still feels unnatural and wrong to me. It felt unnecessary and detrimental and overall kind of stupid. So yeah, I guess as long as you're able to look at things impersonally, the usage of AI might not depreciate the quality of a work as long as it's seamless.
But.
It might just taint the merit of the work, the actual labor and effort it took to make the film. Look, I'm a dumb guy, but to my eyes, the only tangible, non-theoretical function that AI provides at this current moment that actually improves our lives, besides making this creepy art, is Googling things for you. But shittily. It's fucking Ask Jeeves. And those are the supposedly positive applications of AI that are broadly available to the consumer. On a purely business-to-business basis, it seems like AI is indeed being used as a tool, but it seems like its most common application as a tool is mostly just used to bloodlessly remove the pesky moral questions involved in the exploitation of labor. And that's to say nothing of the environmental catastrophes it'll create in the long term. Let's use the United Healthcare thing as an example. United Healthcare recently revealed a new AI software that was used to deny around 60% of its claims, which was the same software that denied Luigi Mangione the back surgery that ultimately led him to take matters into his own hands. What occurred there is basically the unintended blowback of reducing people to cold hard data points.
Nanomachine, son!
You could call it utilitarian all you want, but utilitarianism is ultimately a pragmatic system that's used to ensure the most good for the highest number of people, whereas this type of thinking is precisely the exact opposite. It's not rational or logical, it's just callous and inhuman. And yes, to be completely fair, I do know that AI isn't all bad and that it has potentially some very interesting applications. For instance, I know that there are going to be very rapid advances in medical technology because of AI. This is the ultimate utopian example I hear when people tell me that AI is actually good. But does it matter if diagnostic software is enhanced if your healthcare provider has an automated system that will deny your coverage anyway? I understand that a certain degree of lives will actually be saved because of AI. But let's be utilitarian for a second. Does a few lives being saved outweigh the millions of people that might be unemployed or displaced, or in the case of healthcare, literally left to die because of it?
Since 2020, there has been a substantial increase in venture capital funding coming into this space. In 2024, we saw around $11 billion in funding going to various different AI and healthcare startups.
Does it really matter if AI can be used to more accurately find cancer cells in your body if yet another AI can arbitrarily deny you your chemo? Now, if you want to be super pessimistic, it's not hard to see the logical endpoint of this type of cold hard rationalism, which is the very term that many of these messianic tech sociopaths use to justify this supposedly scientific results-based logic.
Every leap of civilization was built off the back of a disposable workforce. We lost our stomach for slaves, unless engineered.
Now, I don't have time to delve into the rationalist movement, nor am I going to talk about Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, CFAR, or folks like the Zizians, because that's a whole nother video. But there is one theory of theirs called the paperclip problem, which was introduced by Nick Bostrom, that I will talk about. Say we reach the singularity and produce an AI supercomputer. Eventually, the AI will discover that human beings produce all the necessary ingredients to create said paperclips, and considering that there are 6 billion of us, are therefore its most reliable energy source. Now, because we would definitely be opposed to being ground up and turned into paperclips and would assuredly raise a stink about it, the AI's goal would then become to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by killing us to harvest all of our paperclip resources and to destroy its primary source of opposition. If this example sounds silly, it's because it is. Despite its bleakness, it reeks of techno-utopianism, because it presumes a degree of intelligence from AI which genuinely might not be possible. And this is the second point my STEM friends bring up to me all the time, which is that the AI Skynet Matrix takeover is largely fantastical because at the end of the day, AI takes information from people, and most people are pretty stupid. And in fact, it seems as though a lot of people nowadays have become even dumber than the AI that they've become increasingly over-reliant on. Therefore, you get a human centipede double bind of increasing gibberish and stupidity, especially now that the AI has about 12 degrees of schizophrenia to sift through every time it turns on Twitter. Oh, I'm sorry, X, the everything app. Therefore, both humanity and AI have become ensconced in a negative feedback loop of bullshit. Just to use an example, my friend told me about an instance in which somebody tried to train an AI to play Tetris. They had to fulfill 2 conditions. Condition A, score as many points as possible, and condition B, don't lose. The AI figured out pretty quickly that stacking blocks gives you a lot of points. So, instead of taking the time to figure out that getting lines gets you more points, it continued to stack blocks, thus fulfilling condition A. Then, when it was about to lose, it quit the game, thus technically fulfilling condition B, don't lose. Brilliant. Incredible, amazing. And yes, I do know that AI is going to get smarter, and that it's likely as stupid as it's ever going to be at this exact moment in time. I know that its advancement is going to be rapid and exponential, and it's going to be a thing that we won't recognize even in 5 years. But do you think that we're prepared for this advancement? Because, like I said, a lot of us are already dumber than the AI is as it currently stands. And if you don't believe me, just ask yourself this question. Do you know how to drive stick? Can you get to a place using only directions, or do you need the GPS? Hell, did you actually write that term paper that was due without help, or did you use ChatGPT? And let's just say that things really do become cyberpunk for real, and that we begin to cybernetically enhance ourselves and merge with AI to form the singularity. Well, who do you think that those advancements are going to go to?
You? Ridiculous.
There's already a heinous wealth gap in this country. Try an intelligence gap. Once half the jobs are automated, what do you think the job market's gonna look like? Your primary competition is gonna be the rich kid from Yale who can afford to juice up his hippocampus to give himself a photographic memory and surgically remove his amygdala to forever free himself from fear and indecision. But let's go back to the Tetris thing for a second, because I really do think that that encapsulates my argument better than pretty much anything else could. Which is that, above all, AI is the product of societal malaise, and is the logical endpoint of the type of capitalism America has fully thrown its back into for the last 40 years or so. Call it the neoliberal project, call it late-stage capitalism, call it austerity politics, whatever. It's lazy, it's the shortest distance between 2 points, it's anti-innovation, it's recursive, it's regressive, it's disgusting, it won't go away. Anything short of actively burning it with fire on your behalf passively permits it to spread like cancer, it's gonna fuck millions of people out of their jobs, and above all, it's stupid and unnecessary, and we don't need it.
I give up every computer to bring the mob back. I hate this shit.
Basically, in terms of aura, It is the opposite of how I view Hayao Miyazaki and his work. Lynch once said that the art life is a life lived around working. This is worthy of consideration now more than ever.
Elaborate on that.
No, I won't.
Filmmaking, just like any other creative endeavor, is hard. Like, really hard. It's messy, it's painful, it's exhausting. You get the impression that Miyazaki hated it. But Miyazaki kept on chugging. When I think of Miyazaki's attitude, it reminds me of this quote that James L. Brooks had on Wes Anderson. He strikes me as the type of guy who can't live unless he gets to make movies. See, AI represents the very antithesis of everything Miyazaki ever stood for. Miyazaki's prevailing ethos has always been that of supreme effort, a feverishly insane passion and drive for filmmaking itself. It's zen, it's about the process. His films are brimming with vibrance and personality because they possess an absurd attention to detail, unmatched by practically any other filmmaker besides legends like Kubrick or Fincher. Miyazaki doesn't lazily cut corners for the sake of budget. Miyazaki doesn't abide by laziness in any aspect of the filmmaking process, and he has always demanded the same of his fellow animators, which is why so many of his protégés, such as Hideaki Anno, have gone on to such incredible success. You might have seen this shot from The Wind Rises posted around in the discussion that resulted from the OpenAI posts. This shot took over a year to animate. In the documentary, when key animator Eiji Yamamori finally finishes the shot, he laments on how long it took. Miyazaki just replies, "Yeah, but it was worth it." There have been filmmakers like this before, but while Kubrick and his acolyte Fincher often emphasized perfection on the technical level, exercising a complete mastery of cinematography, production design, and editing, the human elements of storytelling and characterization sometimes took a back seat.
This pot is making you aggressive.
No! It's not the pot, it's you!
However, with Miyazaki, the vital human elements are front and center. Miyazaki's films are so intriguing and rewatchable not only because every frame is a painting, but because every element is subordinated to their emotional core. He rightly understood that his own unique animations and richly rendered backgrounds are merely a vehicle to give his characters personality and breathe life into the worlds he creates.
애니메이션っていうのは意志が筋肉なんですよ。意志を表現、運命を表現するけど意志を表現するんです。運命があっても。
The vibrance of Miyazaki's animation style is effectively an extension of his deeply prevailing humanitarianism. Although he may be a grouchy doomer in real life, I would overall classify Miyazaki as a romantic. Miyazaki loves telling grand stories of varying scopes because he sees humanity's better angels, even set against the backdrop of decay and horror and war. His films all feel like adaptations of children's stories from the 1800s, like Peter Pan or Alice in Wonderland. And in the case of something like Howl's Moving Castle, they actually are. Everyone in Miyazaki's films, even his villains, feel noble in some way. There are few truly evil characters in Miyazaki's films. Everyone is largely good, or at least has some sort of pragmatic, real-world explanation for the evil they commit. Just think of Lady Kiyoshi from Mononoke, or the Princess Kushana from Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I also suppose that another reason I love Miyazaki's work so much is because all of his films in some way remind me of Lord of the Rings, another property to be completely assaulted by this AI process. Immediately after Ghiblified images were unveiled, like flies on shit, a modern-day Renaissance man and all his infinite skill and wisdom plugged inputs into a computer to make an AI Lord of the Rings. Once again, this is an absurdly tone-deaf insult to life itself. Lord of the Rings is, to this day, perhaps the greatest achievement in the history of cinema. Or, at the very least, the most difficult to bring to life. The films are a labor of love that took over a decade to make, employing every cinematic trick in the book.
And it also had a forced perspective split rig on it so that you could get Gandalf and Frodo sitting side by side, apparently, although in fact Elijah Wood was sitting much further back from the camera than Gandalf.
And when the filmmakers couldn't find a practical solution, they had to innovate new ones. Whether it's the fact that each orc had their own personalized armor set.
We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meat?
Or the fact that Viggo Mortensen actually broke his toe and blocked that sword in real time.
Look, he's got better each time. If I just give him one more take, I bet it's going to look great. So he boots this helmet. And then he let out this scream.
Or the fact that, as somebody who helped edit the film firsthand told me, the final 13.5-hour product is actually a massive cut down from the original 40 hours of usable footage that we'll probably never ever get to see. And yet, here it is, folks! AI Studio Ghibli Lord of the Rings! Not to be confused with the original animated Lord of the Rings. Oh, no. This is AI Studio Ghibli Lord of the Rings! Who needs personalized breastplates when you can plug in some inputs? I mean, who cares if you have to destroy half a forest in the process? Nothing matters. Fuck you, Treebeard! Stupid-ass tree bitch! There's actually this quote by Tolkien, which he probably never even actually said, which I always attribute to Gandalf for some reason, which goes a little something like this. Frodo, evil is not able to create anything new. It can only distort and destroy what has been invented or made by the forces of good. Also, I'm gay. However, if we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, I would just like to be on record in saying that sometimes I think Hollywood peaked with those films. If you ask anybody, most people would tell you that movies have sort of been on the decline. No one can really point out when it started or why it happened exactly, but somewhere in between the release of Iron Man and the release of Madam Web, the magic was kind of just lost.
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
In a way, Hollywood's the perfect microcosm for America right now. Nobody can really seem to agree on why it's bad, but we all know that we're being cheated out of something vital. And much like the government, the only people convinced that the machine is still running are the people who are running the damn thing. It's classic sunk cost fallacy. I think it's extremely appropriate that this entire debate about the ethical ramifications of AI was essentially brought into the public discourse 2 years ago by Hollywood itself, when the Writers Guild of America began a strike against the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And while the main sticking point of the strike was over residuals and streaming royalties, an enormous aspect of the strike revolved around Hollywood's insistence upon using AI to help write scripts in the future. This debate spilled over when the Screen Actors Guild initiated their own strike in solidarity with the WGA. The major topic of SAG's strike was Hollywood's continued usage of deepfakes to replicate actors, some of whom were long dead, a practice that Hollywood has engaged in for over a decade. Worse, certain studios are developing Hideo Kojima feet scanning technology to help replicate extras and make crowd scenes more manageable. Not only is this soulless and lazy, not only does this directly fly in the face of the effort expended to create this shot and others, it also raises a serious ethical concern. Hollywood is able to print your face and reuse you, without even providing you with residual pay. Essentially, this concept reminds me of AM, the villain of Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth, Yet I Must Scream, as well as Rocco's Basilisk. If you have a family history of schizophrenia, or are even just watching this video stoned, do yourself a favor and don't Google either of those things. Essentially, your image is trapped for all eternity. IP slavery from beyond the grave. Take AI Ian Holm and Alien Romulus. Ian Holm has been dead for years. Yet, here he is in full form for over half the movie. Never mind the fact that the character he originally played is canonically dead, or that they could have just used a different model of androids, or the fact that his presence adds literally nothing to the film. Here's Ian Holm! 'Cause remember Bilbo Baggins?
I'm old, Gandalf. I need a holiday. A very long holiday.
There is actually one Hollywood film that came out recently, directly inspired by Miyazaki's work, that very much illustrates the point that I'm trying to make here. Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17 was released this March to little fanfare. The marketing was terrible. You'd think that a world-class director hot off the heels of making the first foreign film to win Best Picture would get more hype, but alas. Mickey 17 tackles the ethical ramifications of cloning, or as the film calls it, human printing. The film takes place in a dystopian hyper-capitalistic society in which humans have become right and truly fungible. Robert Pattinson plays an expendable, somebody who sold away their human rights to be human-printed ad infinitum, to assist in dangerous maintenance for an interplanetary expedition meant to colonize a snowy moon filled with space bugs. Mickey is given the crew's most dangerous jobs because he can always be cloned and created anew, meaning that Mickey dies again and again and again and again. See, the expendable clones are just like AI. It's not as though they're evil inherently or inauthentic in some way. After all, AI is indeed getting better and better and better by the day, to the point where even after writing this, there are new forms of AI that scare me even more. But the fact remains that they were created unethically for a greedy and nefarious purpose, are demonstrated to be an environmental hazard, and indeed distort and cheapen what it means to be human in the first place. Someone online called AI art leveraged dead labor, because it can only learn and grow by utilizing the totality of human endeavors created organically. Miyazaki will now be forced to work overtime for the rest of eternity. Art imitating his work will be used to justify genocide and forced deportation and population exodus. His work will destroy forests and pollute oceans. And if you're an artist like Miyazaki who's fortunate enough to not only leave your mark but also develop a signature style, so will yours. Mickey 17 bombed, and a lot of that really did have to do with the film's terrible marketing. Most people didn't know it existed. It's almost as if they want these films to fail so that they can just say, "Oh, well, see, we told you so. You want original ideas, but they don't make money. The only thing that do make money are $200 million tentpole sludge fests." Why spread your chips into a million spots to maximize your chances of winning when you can just bet it all on red? Why bet individual games when you can just parlay that shit? Hollywood has truly been on the vanguard of the AI discussion because there's been no better breeding ground for its implementation. The public has turned against it. The right believes it to be a woke-peddling hive of grifters who spend their weekends at Bohemian Grove, and libs will clap like seals for any sort of representation, even if it's in the service of self-congratulatory dog shit. Sequels and remakes rule the day, diluting once beloved properties into a mill for slop. Thanks to 6K and 8K cameras, everything looks good, but nothing stands out. Nobody knows how to shoot on film anymore. Nobody knows how to make practical effects anymore. Hell, seemingly no one even knows how to color correct anymore.
What?
And worse, everything is implemented algorithmically. Lowest common denominator. Greatest return on investment. There is no love for the arts anymore, merely a love for profit.
I like money.
Films and shows are subordinated to focus-tested boardroom thinking. AI has already caught on in Hollywood because it's been operating on AI logic for the last 10 years or so.
Don't get worked up again.
They did it again. In the end, they're no more than a program. All they can do is repeat the same pattern over and over again.
Thanks to a widespread lowering of standards and a dearth of cultural literacy, Hollywood's realized that they can just churn out slop and most of the populace will lap it up anyway. So why even put in the effort to make a good product? Why pay to build a set when you can just green screen it? Why pay for actors when you can just use copies? Hell, why even hire a crew and actors to begin with if you can just wholesale generate the entire picture in grok? And what's worse is that this isn't even just Hollywood, this is everywhere now. Hollywood is just a microcosm for the rest of America anyway, constantly on the decline while fostering a regressive form of nostalgia, cultivating the myth that the best version of itself existed sometime long ago in the forever past, anywhere from 20 to 40 years ago depending on your aesthetic. When people say they want to make America great again, I always have to ask, when was America ever great? The post-war years, everything after the Civil Rights Act, but before 9/11? Before Reagan? Before Obama?
Gotta have them ribs. And pussy too.
Before 2008?
It wasn't my fault, I'll call you back. It wasn't my fault, I'll call you back. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault.
What's the range here? Honestly, if there was ever one truly positive aspect about America during this general time frame, it was its pop culture and easy access to amenities. Half the time I think that they just mean returning to a time in which they could go to the theater any given weekend, watch a good Arnold movie for $2.
Stop it!
Go get wasted and smoke indoors at the local bar that's open until 3 a.m.
At least you're drinking again.
And then drive home drunk with next to no consequences.
Hanging out in a bar with like 50 dogs. And everybody's petting the dogs and everybody's drinking beer out of little tiny glasses. Big peppy daddy walking around. We gotta go back.
Because, as the pandemic revealed to a lot of us, when you take all of that away, you've got a country that isn't particularly nice to look at, where a trip in the ambulance ruins your next 6 months. We've sacrificed our lives and quality of living and personal freedoms and privacy and basic human rights piece by piece to the altar of the product. But the product is no longer even good.
It's good to be in something from the ground floor. I came too late for that. I know. But lately I'm getting the feeling that I came in at the end. The best is over.
Many Americans, I think, feel that way.
We live inside the bloated corpse of a nation that doesn't actually do anything anymore. So the only thing that remains is to consume slop, drone bomb terrorist cells.
We're doing it! We're doing it!
And sit around endlessly debating where it all went wrong and what the root cause of it all is. Or, if that's too labor-intensive, consume. Huff the galaxy gas. You want to know what I think the root cause is? I figure you probably do, given that you clicked on this heinous piece of engagement bait. It's not immigrants.
They took our jobs!
And it's not some trans teenager averaging a double-double in your daughter's high school basketball league. It's, in a word, enshittification. Enshittification is a concept coined by Cory Doctorow used to describe social media platforms. First, platforms innovate to attract users and build up public goodwill. Then, realizing that they have an audience already and don't really need to do anything anymore, tech giants will deliberately degrade the product to reduce overhead and maximize shareholder value. Essentially, quality becomes secondary to the money.
Computer's bullshit! It's fucking sick! It's not cool anymore, it's not fun! It's not fun to be on the fucking computer! They changed everything about it! It used to be so cool!
Everything looks like shit to you, right? What if I were to tell you
that you're seeing the world the way it actually is.
Everything used to be awesome and cool, but now everything's gone to shit, and nobody knows except us.
Yeah. And shitification is hardly a new term. It's just never had a word for it before. It's basically the unwanted byproduct of capitalism itself, which thrives on growth and the extraction of resources at all costs, with its only justification being its own self-perpetuation, its own survival. This process is only accelerated in the end of history, an era defined by the rise of private equity and our conversion from a production economy to the advanced economy, which outsources most of its production capabilities to the third world while emphasizing finance capital back here at home. The irony of the so-called advanced economy, as opposed to the Fordist assembly line production economy we and the Soviets created competing versions of in the post-war years, is that it's essentially beholden to the market with a capital M, as though it were God. Because the stock market is essentially theoretical and, in many instances, divorced from actual productive capacity, quality doesn't really matter. Basically, quality is secondary to the money. The first thing you're taught in business school is to increase revenue and reduce losses. It's risk-averse mentality that essentially hails profit over everything else. So while your company might have record quarters every quarter, it's likely due to the fact that you've simultaneously cheapened your product and sold it for more, which pisses people off and erodes public trust in your institution. Then, in a vain effort to win back public goodwill, you hire a private consulting firm like McKinsey, who likely also owns a share in your company, who tells you to lay off half your employees, dilute the product's quality, and ramp up production. Then, when that ultimately makes the product worse and people complain, you go back to McKinsey for further consultation, furthering the grift of private equity. And all to watch big green line go up, theoretically measuring that your company's doing better so that degenerate gamblers, i.e. investors, can then essentially bet on whether or not your company will make more money. So, basically, when you invest, you're sometimes actually rewarding a company for gutting its own quality and making its products worse.
Get it out of your fucking heads that this is not happening. I'm gonna make this happen.
Another downside of a dogmatically for-profit model of economics is that it thrives on the further exploitation of labor. As a concept, shitification is actually over 250 years old. In fact, it's basically just a repackaged version of Marx's fundamental contradiction of capitalism. Boo! Basically, because capitalism is driven by relentless greed and unchecked growth, it will eventually create conditions in which workers can't enjoy the fruits of their labor anymore, and is therefore an inherently unstable model.
Nobody gives a care about the fate of labor as long as they can get their instant gratification.
Therefore, capitalism always requires the state to intervene on its behalf, manufacturing consent and eliminating all alternative models to further justify its own existence and keep the market stable. So, what else have we established to be an inherently unpredictable, regressive model that thrives on environmental decay and currently requires enormous government subsidies just to keep itself alive, despite the fact that there's growing resentment for it and seems to lack any justifiable function? I'll give you a second to think about it. It's AI. It's what we're talking about AI. That's the video. So, if you think things are bad now...
fucking shit!
Just wait and see how bad they do get. Yeah, we're already there. You know what? Fuck it. We're already off track. Let's talk about the official White House Ghibli post.
This painting is making us all crazy. Hey, there's painting!
First off, everything else aside, this is just wrong. It's pretty evil that they're just dunking on a person who's probably languishing in a Salvadorian prison right now. I don't even care what she did. Don't get me wrong, it's not cool that she was selling fentanyl, but can you imagine for a second that you get arrested, you cry on camera, and then the official White House Twitter uses Studio Ghibli to posterize you?
Government applications. A fully AI democracy.
And then, there's this. I don't even really want to get into this because I would rather not be kidnapped and deported, but yeah, this sucks. You're monsters. Either way, fuck off.
Gentlemen, to evil.
And what's so pathetic here with the White House post specifically is that I don't know who tweeted this out. Do you think that this is one of the 19-year-olds that Elon pays to follow him around and laugh at his jokes, or one of the greasy little Fuentes groypers that Trump stuffed his staff with? I mean, it sucks. This is bad content. It actually makes sense to me that these are the type of people that would post this type of shit, because
fascists are kind of cool, but not really. So is that like a problem, a thing?
Both tech guys and the alt-right bros are simultaneously jealous of and contemptuous towards artists.
Poach some of those TikTok psychos, e-girls with fucking guns and jewel pods. We're strictly bone broth and dick pills. Deep state conspiracy hour, but with like a fucking wink, funny.
Tonight's show is brought to you by the new U.S. government, improving the arts by severely limiting them.
Because there are basically two types of nerds in high school. The ones that eventually become cool, and the ones that never get over it and make the world suffer.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
I mean, dear God, look at somebody like Ben Shapiro or Steven Crowder. Failed artists who spend their time complaining about the wokeness of children's shows. So, if you can't create art, you might as well just destroy it to own the libs, right? Or better yet, why not bring about the destruction of art while actively telling yourself that you're an artist? Because you could be hip too, right? You're fashionable. And if you get to make art for the mere price of some cling credits without even having to exploit a crew to make it, because that would actually require cultivating human relationships and collaborating with people of different perspectives, then all the better. Plus, if people don't like the slop you churn out into the world, you can always ironically distance yourself from it. After all, you know deep down that you didn't really make the art, your little robotic art slave did. Man, when you mediate the process of posting cringe to a neutral third party, this art stuff is actually pretty easy.
Trump Gaza #1!
Well, at least we can't set the bar any lower. Oh no. Seriously, dude? This is a troll, right? This is a joke. Surely he couldn't be this stupid. Dude, God, you're... Oh my God. What do you think we even do here, man? We're good at like two things, making movies and making weapons of mass destruction. This is just yet another glorious game of, is he being evil, or is he just stupid? So, the evil angle I get. Ban those pussy-ass foreign films. Ratings for queers.
Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
If this is yet another goal to own the libs and make us all froth at the bit so much that we're too angry to even fight back, then congratulations, you succeeded. Calling Jackie Robinson DEI baseball was one thing. Now you fucked with my precious movies. This cannot be forgiven. You know what? No, that's not what it is. This has got to be some dumbass blood and soil JD Vance shit, because the stupid angle is too much even for him this time. What are these foreign films that are threatening America? Nobody fucking watches foreign films here. The only people that are gonna die a fast death are the independent movie houses that the old people go to.
I love the young people.
It's also definitely a jab at Canada, because pretty much all of the quote-unquote foreign filming going on is basically just in Toronto and Vancouver. But where the stupid angle of course comes in is his fundamental misunderstanding of how to fix this issue. The reason these studios are going to Vancouver and Atlanta and New York instead of LA is because they provide better tax incentives to filmmakers. You know, actual infrastructure. But we all know infrastructure is gay. But despite that, surely your solution here is to provide tax breaks to Los Angeles, which is on its way to becoming RoboCop Detroit, right?
The president praising the decision, writing, "Without the deployment, the city would be burning. We saved LA."
I truly saved the show.
Or, ooh, wait, hold on. What about a national film grant? Yeah, a national film grant. Use some of that money you've saved from gutting things to finance the arts. Hell, even cynically, if you wanted to be evil with it, you could probably get some great fascist films out of it, dude. You could have your very own Starship Troopers propaganda wing. But no, of course, instead, just like everything, fuck you, they're stealing from us, tariff the shit out of it, ruin everything, destroy the country. Great, awesome, amazing. And no, we're not going to talk about Iran. In fact, we're not going to talk about Iran at all. Let's get back to safety, folks. Let's go back to the AI thing. All right, let's talk about the Studio Ghibli memes. There have been two types of people posting these memes. Nihilistic Republicans who genuinely champion AI art because it embodies their goals of cheapening and destroying creativity for the sake of efficiency and automating people out of their jobs, and libs and leftists of various stripes posting the memes ironically to make fun of the trend. However, while the latter group of people are still more well-intentioned than the first, they'd be good to recognize that, at the end of the day, they're still peddling slop. They're ironically peddling slop, but they're still peddling slop. A wise man once said that an ironic shitpost is still a shitpost, and it genuinely shocks me that people still haven't wised up to this message, especially when this post-ironic nihilism has directly led us to the alt-right Trumpism, folks like Nick Fuentes, and the general post-truth universe that we inhabit in the current day.
The only truth you know is what you get over this tube. You're beginning to believe the illusions we're spinning here. You're beginning to think that the tube is reality and that your own lives are unreal. You do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs.
In a landscape in which the truth can be altered and modified, nobody believes in anything, and everything is ripe for misinterpretation. It doesn't actually matter now what your intent is when you're posting slop, because a turd with glitter on it is still a turd. And what's so funny is that I fell for it hook, line, and sinker on my own stupid podcast, where I posted a picture of JD Vance giblified, kind of to make fun of the trend. It doesn't really matter what I was going for. I still posted slop. I was trying to comment on slop, I was trying to parody slop, and yet here I was spreading slop anyway on our dumbass pod we used to pad out the algorithm, therefore becoming part of the slop repository for AI to further feed upon. It's not as though I actually made the meme myself and destroyed the trees, but in this post-truth universe in which intention and nuance might as well be an afterthought, in which alternative facts reign, I beg the question. Does it even matter what your reasoning is when everything you post is either slop or allowing slop to spread like cancer? AI is like an internet troll. It doesn't matter if you're in the right or if you're making a good point when you're yelling at it, you're still feeding the troll anyway, which only gives the troll more power. The one philosopher who really had the right beat on this phenomenon was Jean Baudrillard, who conceived of the idea of the simulacrum. We shall explain the simulacrum with this meme of JD Vance.
Such would be the successive phases of the image. It is the reflection of a profound reality. It masks and denatures a profound reality. It masks the absence of a profound reality. It has no relation to any reality whatsoever. It is its own pure simulacrum.
And let me once again invoke the words of the wise old sage. An ironic shitpost is still a shitpost. The problem with sequels or remakes or AI or any regressive model of regurgitated products isn't that they're lazy or uninspired or even that they're disgusting to look at or even that they steal intellectual property. It's that they normalize something overly self-referential and insincere, no matter how retrograde and grotesque it is, into the new normal and call it progress. It becomes the new baseline, which the algorithm then feeds and churns out. Essentially, we're getting a copy of 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 a copy until it's completely unrecognizable. We're already at the point in which culture seems to have stopped moving forward as quickly as it once did. Let's use the current state of modern video gaming as an example to help illustrate my point. When I was growing up in the 2000s, I experienced 3 different console generations. It started with the N64 and the PS1, moved on to the PS2, the GameCube, the Xbox, and the Dreamcast, and by the end of the decade, you had the full-blown Xbox 360, PS3, Wii generation. You started the decade with Crash Bandicoot, and you ended it with No Russian. And those weren't exactly enlightened times.
Families is where our nation finds hope, where wings take dream.
But let's contrast that to now. 10 years ago, you had Fortnite, and you had Minecraft, and you had a rapidly dwindling Call of Duty. And today you have Fortnite, and you have Minecraft, and you have an even more rapidly dwindling Call of Duty. And again, this is not all to say that we haven't experienced any good culture in the last 10 years. Far from it. It's mostly just that the cream that rises to the top has become less diversified. We imitate dead styles over and over because that's what the algorithm says is popular. And we keep giving these people our money anyway, even though they inshitify every product we love. I mean, forget the parameters of Ghibli for this argument for a second. Do you want to just experience the same things over and over and over and over until you die? Can we still call ourselves a nation of innovators if we're just constantly lapping up the waste byproduct of better men who came before us? Do we truly have nothing left to offer? Are we really just gonna lay down and die like this?
What does the future hold for Duff? Let's just say we've got a few ideas up our sleeve.
Like what?
All right, we don't have any ideas for the future. We got nothing. Happy?
No.
Even though we've seemingly evolved at an exponential rate and have perhaps evolved more in the last 50 years than in the previous 2 millennia, it seems as though we no longer have anything new to say, and as a result we have nothing new of substance to create. So we can only stand by and react, make hot takes, make stupid little YouTube video essays. We're no longer driven by hope, we're driven by anxiety, fear, and the desire to appear hip and cool and, above it all. Despite the swirl of information, our perspective has narrowed, and this is how they like it. In my opinion, as much of a cliche as it may be, pretty much everything about the gradual downfall of America's grip on power and its decline into brain rot can be traced back to MKUltra.
Oh, you think that's weird?
Now, for those of you that don't know, in the late 60s and early 70s, it was revealed that the CIA had spent millions and millions of dollars researching mind control. They tried everything from hypnotic suggestion to purchasing all of the world's supply of LSD in the vain attempt to create Manchurian candidates who would kill on command in the fight against the Soviets. Now, by all outward appearances, the operation was a failure. It was an enormous waste of money. But what I find so funny is that, by hook or by crook, the strategy ended up working anyway. Turns out you don't need psychedelics and torture to instill compliance. That's old hat. You just need to think systemically, using austerity. Gut the education system to make us dumber. Poison the food to make us fatter. Fill the airwaves with mass media drivel to make us lazier. We become more malleable, more easily controlled, ideal economic units of consumption.
What are people? They're economic units. What is a person? It has values and aims, but it operates in a market. Marriage market, job market, money market, market for ideas, etc., etc.
So everything is a market?
Ask any educator. Kids are getting less and less creative. If you strangle the capacity for critical thought and limit our vocabularies, that supposed individuality we all tout goes away little by little. Without the proper words to articulate your discontent, you lose the capacity to find solutions to your own problems and affect change.
Or I know, how about we weaponize the people's dissatisfaction against them?
Make them think that they have the correct beat on things by feeding them conflicting conspiracy theories that never seem to resolve in anything.
Computers don't make errors. What they do on purpose. By now, your name and particulars have been fed into every laptop, desktop, mainframe, and supermarket scanner that collectively make up the global information conspiracy, otherwise known as the Beast.
Or, for the media poison among us, create an economy of hot takes and engagement bait. See, the need for everyone to critique and ironically mock everything right at the moment of its inception is also a psyop. So, if you make a 2-hour screed on why the new Marvel movie sucks, you're actually an unwitting accomplice to the system in 3 ways. 1, you're still spreading cancer. You're giving the thing free advertising in the form of engagement. Secondly, you're feeding into your own sense of uniqueness and individuality, which buys into the American ideology of self-actualization above all else.
Fights as a team. This individuality stuff is a bunch of crap. The bilious bastards who wrote that stuff about individuality don't know anything more about real battle than they do about fornicating.
You get to feel good about yourself, and it makes you feel like you accomplished something. Which brings me to point number 3. Your desire to mock and critique trains you to think that pointing at something and calling it bad is a suitable substitute for actually doing something about it and affecting change. In America, any critique of the system only reifies it. Because, after all, what other system would allow such freedom of dissent to exist?
You liberal assholes.
I don't want to see another Vietnam. I don't want to see America get another bad rap, because I believe in America.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
I believe that we stand for something.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
For a constitution. For human rights. Not just for a few people, but for everybody on this planet.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
Wow, I love my friends, and I love my God, and I love my country, and God bless America, I guess. What else can you say?
Meanwhile, your rent has gone up twice since this video has started. Real wages have stagnated since 1970 despite a historic increase in productivity. The $5 footlong costs $12.95 because Subway can just do whatever the fuck it wants because it knows you'll just blame inflation or whoever the president is anyway. And even if you're smart enough to realize what's going on, or dumb enough to think that you're smart enough to realize what's going on, you're too busy trying to make ends meet to really do anything about it. And if all of this is bumming you out or making you feel tired, just consume. Turn your brain off. Huff the galaxy gas. You've earned it.
Just kidding. If you do this shit, you're a fucking dumbass.
And what you get as a result of the combined factors is a widespread laziness of thought, a lack of critical thinking, and a complete absence of cultural literacy.
You are getting real dumb.
Come on, all right. See, this is what I'm talking about, illiteracy. You know, what does that word even mean?
The world is so fractured and overwhelming and terrifying that it's become enough for some people to completely throw their hands up and beg for someone else to take the reins. And now you get people who can't write a 3-sentence email without ChatGPT. You get lazy, uninspiring people creating lazy, uninspired art. It's no longer about the process of creation, it's about the end result. Little bite-sized chunks of instant gratification to try to rekindle the flame of burnt-out dopamine receptors.
The whole world is becoming humanoid, creatures that look human but aren't. The whole world, not just us, we're just the most advanced country, so we're getting there first. The whole world's people are becoming mass-produced, programmed, numbered, insensate things.
It was a perfectly admissible argument that Howard Beale advanced in the days that followed. It was, however, also a very depressing one. Nobody particularly cared to hear his life was utterly valueless.
And for what? For what? What does any of this solve? How does this improve our lives? AI may solve problems of efficiency and further grease up mass production, but it appears to be yet another psychotic application of profit at the expense of literally everything else. Considering the planet's going to hell in a handbasket, it feels almost downright suicidal, like we're racing to the bottom.
The bar has been lowered to depths we can't even fathom.
Essentially, the American people have become enshittified. In other words, we're more cooked than a twice-baked potato.
What the fuck is this world? What have they done to us? What did they do to us?
But thankfully, not all hope is lost, because the hilarious, juicy irony to all of this is that without realizing it, the people running the show now have also cooked themselves and backed themselves into a corner, making them weaker than ever before. The CIA, the FBI, the NSA are now fully staffed with people who are also the victims of at least 2 generations of astroturfing, psyops, black ops, and manufactured consent that is all falling prey to enshittification anyway.
I'm a woman of color. I am a mom. I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise.
They've become so short-sighted and so stupid and so desperate to have another enemy to fight that they've chosen to pit the American people against each other for sport like cockfighters. And meanwhile, the brain drain keeps happening, we keep getting dumber, we keep going in circles, and the trickle-down effect that you get is a country and a culture in complete disarray that has no idea what it wants anymore. Meanwhile, well past their glory days, the Hollywood studios would rather bask in past successes and create a recursive stream of human centipede waste than come up with a new idea.
I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life.
And the tech geniuses are hell-bent on creating an AI god that they genuinely fear, despite the fact that were they to succeed in doing so, they would be the first to be put on the chopping block. And meanwhile, here comes China, creeping on the come-up. And hey, look, let's throw a little bit of economic collapse into the mix. Because the problem is certainly going to be exacerbated by Trump's tariffs. Trump's goal may be to bring back American manufacturing, but he doesn't have a clue as to what that would look like. For those of you worried that you'll have to work in a factory, don't. Because the jobs aren't going to you. They're going to AI. And the jobs themselves will be to produce chips and make more AI. Everything is computer. Oh, it's gonna be great, folks. Everything is computer. NVIDIA and Palantir will essentially become the entire economy, and we become one step closer to actually implementing Metal Gear Solid 2, but in real life. A self-sufficient economy run entirely without the help or the consent of the American populace, all for the benefit of a bunch of rich assholes who want to become marginally richer and people who actually believe in all that Curtis Yarvin transhumanist, rationalist bullshit.
Hey, the body is bad, the body's not good. The body is bad, the body's not good.
Oh, but don't worry, because GTA 6 is just around the corner, right? So, can we at least just consume some Miyazaki movies? I don't know. I know there's no such thing as ethical consumption over capitalism or whatever, but can we at least just consume the good shit to send a message that there's still at least an interest for this sort of thing? I don't even know to who, but maybe just to ourselves. For no other reason than to let studios know that there is an audience for that kind of stuff and not for this kind of stuff. Or, I mean, just watch it. I don't care. Like, just gather an appreciation for something real. You owe it to yourself to reward some form of authenticity because it's at least proof that it can be possible. Anyway, I'm running out of steam. I've completely lost the plot here, but I guess we've all sort of lost the plot here, haven't we? I guess if there's any unifying message to this video, it's that we need a Butlerian jihad.
Wipe this meme from the face of the earth.
No, actually, it's that, hey, if you want to implement AI as a tool, let's just use it as a tool. But ultimately, a tool needs a hand to wield it.
We're not cavemen! We have technology!
So, if you need help writing that email and you don't know what to say, sure, chug in your little inputs. But then, why don't you take what the AI says and write it in your own words afterwards? You know, just to prove that you have something unique to say on your own. Considering Pandora's box has already been opened, that's pretty much, I guess, all I can really ask of you if this is really what you want. And let's just say that you don't fuck with AI at all. If you see this shit on your timeline, don't repost it, ironically, to mock the trend. Don't comment on it trying to bully people. Don't like it.
don't do anything with it. Ignore it.
Don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Mary, and don't look at it no matter what happens.
Don't engage with it, because engagement fuels the entire engine to this machine. If you're a pretentious fuck like I am, you'll start to see it on your timeline more and more because it outrages you. Remember, shock and disgust fuel the algorithm as much as your genuine interest does. You probably clicked the video either because you already agree with me and you want your beliefs reaffirmed,
Everyone's a fucking idiot but me. I'm really fucking smart.
or because you want to comment mean things about what I'm saying and nitpick my arguments and hail invectives at me. That's fine. But just know that you're money in the bank to me either way, baby, because you watched this far. You fed the beast. Like I said, AI is like a troll, and so far the best method that we've come up with for dealing with a troll is to just ignore it. Because when you don't, you're just feeding the beast. So if you hate AI, just ignore it. And eventually the algorithm will stop sending it to you. Right? Right? Never mind, that's probably not gonna work. AI is kind of like nuclear power.
Deterrence.
Even if every country agreed to stop using it, there's always the chance that some madman makes it in a cave somewhere. So the best we've got as a society is to come together as a whole and collectively decide on what we shouldn't use it for, and then make regulation to reflect that. Oh boy, you just really... You really can't say he doesn't know how to keep it fresh, guys. You really can't say he doesn't know how to keep it fresh. But then what can you, the individual, do in the face of these larger forces? Well, if these cretins just continue shoving it down our throats...
Open wide, Lady Liberty!
Whatever you do, just don't fucking make AI art. That's really all I can ask of you. That's really the only thing I'm trying to get across here. Because not only are you contributing to your own demise by speeding up both the death of art and labor, but also because Squirt from Finding Nemo will die. If we're really in the endgame here and the planet truly is on its last legs, is this how you want to treat it? And all for what? To turn yourself into a freaking Asian and then call yourself an artist? So yeah, I guess just fucking ignore all this shit and actually create something. No matter how cringe or stupid you might think it is, it's still something that you made. Because, at the very least, you're still more creative and human than whatever pimply-faced ghoul is responsible for this abomination.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Being an artist is messy, difficult, and at times completely humiliating, but it's the very expression of humanity itself. It's the only thing that actually sets us apart from the animals. The idea that art can affect change might probably be true, but that doesn't change the fact that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to believe that.
It gives us some insight. It doesn't change. People have thought it would. Films could cause revolutions or whatever, and it does not. But films might change our perspective of things. And
we'd rather just admit defeat than admit that victory could actually be within reach, that change is indeed possible.
We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Art is putting yourself out there and taking the risk of making a complete ass of yourself.
There's a lot of absurdity involved as well. It makes me into a clown, and that happens to everyone.
But AI art is different. AI art involves no risk, no labor.
The algorithm, it takes thinking out of the equation, basically.
Well, that's because math and computers can think better for us than we can think for ourselves.
Yeah, oh, shut up. It's decided we're watching another one.
And good for those in power, because the algorithm hates risk, and the algorithm hates when you have ownership over your own labor. The algorithm wants you to play it safe. The algorithm wants you to censor and neuter yourself, to create art completely on its own terms. Being an artist is all about agency. It's about planting your flag in the sand. It's all about doing the thing, no matter how fucking cringe it is, no matter how time-wasting it may seem. But guess what? When you use AI, you're not actually doing the thing. The AI is doing the thing. You're a LARPer.
そうすると、例えば水彩画みたいなのをCD で人間が描いてる表現するっていうことっていうのが多分5年後とか10年後ぐらいには少なくともきっとできるだろうっていう。
人間超えると人間いらなくなるでしょ。
And if you consider yourself a fan of Studio Ghibli, and this is how you express your fandom, just know that for Hayao Miyazaki to walk into this room right now and see what you've done with his work, not only would he not fuck with you, he'd likely shame you in front of all your friends and make fun of your dick for being small. You are letting my goat down.
give us adequate images. We lack adequate images. Our civilization doesn't have adequate images, and I think a civilization is doomed or is gonna die out like dinosaurs if it does not develop an adequate language or adequate images. We do not have adequate images, and that's what I'm working on. A new grammar of images.